So I'm Shreedha. I am the CEO and co-founder of TAG, the Ayurveda company. We are India's fastest D2C Ayurveda-based FMCG brand. And we started 2 years back. And it'll be very interesting to engage and chat with the panelists today to understand their perspectives on online and offline retail. So, interestingly, from 2015 to 2019, the entire world was going gung ho about D2C brands, new brands setting up. There's a lot of echo. Can we do something about this? Hello. So, from 2015 to 2019, there was so many brands sprung up. And then COVID showed a different perspective to the world wherein offline was shut absolutely. And then so many new online brands, homegrown businesses also came up. But then 2022 onwards, the buzz of retail came back. So it'll be very interesting to understand from the panelists today, who are also enablers and then brands, to understand their perspective on online versus offline, some of the challenges and strategies that they face and execute, and technology and enablers that make this journey easier. So I think from a business perspective, Jatan, my first question would be to you. When do you think is the right time to start venturing into offline? And how do you find the right balance between online and offline?
Thank you so much, Shreedha, for that question. And I'm very glad to be a part of this board event. With respect to your question, Shreedha, what we feel and what we've done at Perfora is we have looked for product market fit. And we genuinely believe that the product that works online might not work offline and vice versa. So you need to really understand who is the customer buying offline, what are they buying, at what price points, and from what kind of stores. So like a lot of people do tell us we are a 20-month-old brand and we're still like getting started in the offline retail where we are present in about 250 odd stores, where they say, isn't it too early to go offline? But our, our sort of thought process has been that 90% of our category buying happens offline. Most people buy oral care products like toothpaste, toothbrush as part of their monthly grocery, and they buy it from their neighborhood store. So if we really want to become a large, scalable 1,000 crore brand in the next 10 years, we'll have to get started early on. So that is one. Second, we've also looked at our product assortment very carefully. So the products that we sell online are very different from the products that we sell offline. And that is how we are trying to strike the balance, because it's very difficult for us today to sell an electric toothbrush offline, which is a 1,000 rupee purchase, but it's relatively easier to sell a tongue cleaner, which is a 200 rupee purchase offline, because there are no established brands in that category. So this is one of the ways that we are tackling, and we are trying to sort of, get started in the offline world and trying to strike that balance.
Great. So, Narinder, why don't you introduce yourself and then throw your perspective on how do you think marketing advertising is different for online and offline? Do brands still need to go, and especially startups and young D2C brands, do we still need to go the traditional way when we start our offline journey?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for inviting. So I spent almost like 2 decades in retail. Earlier, it was all offline, physical retail of my career. From 2010, I have been into very early stages of e-commerce when Fashion and You, Flipkart, they were just picking up. So I have seen, the best of both the sides, and I've seen the entire journey, how the second wave of e-commerce happened in India recently. And I think my learning, my understanding in last all of these years has been that fundamentally everything is about one single word, which is retailing. Retailing is nothing but understanding your consumers, right? So if you very rightly, Jatan said that, you have to really, really dig deep into what your customers are looking for. And doesn't matter what channel it is. In the early phases, if it's a new brand, it's a D2C brand. I think what the problem you're trying to solve in the retail landscape, I think that problem will automatically define what the channel has to be, whether it's offline or online, depending on the product category, depending on the scale of the business you want to go in, the kind of price points you want to cater to. It's a very elaborate answer actually. There are too many factors here, but I guess over time we are seeing in last 2-3 years that almost every other purchase or every one out of three purchases are getting influenced by what we are seeing in the digital, social media channels and Instagram and other marketing that is being done by a lot of influencers, a lot of brands these days. So you can't pull out online from offline and vice versa as well these days. If you look around, the clothes that you're wearing, the shoes that you're wearing, if you try to recall when you purchased it, I think there would be some kind of influence of what you have seen in the online channels, even if you bought it from an offline store. So everything is becoming, digital controlled in a way, eventually. For marketeers, as you asked, I think it's very, very important. Even if you are an offline brand, today online relevance is extremely critical. And I guess keeping the same customer in mind, even though you're not trying to sell it in the online space, but I guess addressing that customer's emotions or customer's needs through your content, through your your channels. I think building a relationship one-on-one is extremely, extremely critical right now. Otherwise, there are plenty and plenty of options. There are too many brands. A lot of people are trying to, as we heard, there's a big surge in terms of startups in our country. A lot of people are trying new things, new innovations, new startups are coming up every day. There are a lot of options for the customers today, but I guess I'll go with the one who's trying to, talk to me, or maybe trying to address my problem. So, similarly, as a part of my introduction, I run a company called ODN Digital Services, which is primarily into, solving these problems through content. And this is something that, has started becoming a very, very important discussion point for a lot of marketeers because of, dropping ROS and, increasing CACs. I think it is becoming extremely critical that your relevance in terms of presence in the online space has to be really looked upon, whether you're talking it to the right customer in the right manner or not. Because digital spends are touching almost like 50,000 crores. I think next year we'll cross TV advertisements. If that is the kind of money we are spending on digital advertisements, I think a lot of money has to be spent on content as well, because that is what, in the end, consumers do not know how much money you have spent, right? How great the product is. What they are consuming today is what they're seeing, right? They are putting their money on what they're looking as an image or a video or whatever we have written over there. So I guess marketers truly need to understand that you can't take online away from offline anymore. The time has gone. It has to be like a confluence of the approaches and confluence of teams as well. I see a lot of brands which still operate. They have an e-commerce team as a separate team and a central marketing team as a different team. And I think they both need to think together, come together, and solve this problem. Yeah.
So Somil, after you introduce yourself, why don't you tell us that when a brand diversifies, let's say a digital brand, a digital D2C first brand diversifies to offline, what changes for you as an enabler, and what are the solutions that you can provide to them? Because within offline also, a brand may choose to go B2B or B2C, or open their own stores, and there are like 10 different models within offline, while e-commerce on the other hand is specific to a certain models. So how do you go about that? What changes at your level and what solutions? How do you make the journey easier for the brands?
Thank you. First of all, thanks to the EMB team for inviting me here. I represent Shiprocket. I'm sure a lot of people in the D2C ecosystem know us as a shipment aggregator. And like you rightly said, over the last 10 to 11 years since Shiprocket has been in existence, we have been supporting a lot of online businesses. That as you start shipping online, you need someone to take your products from your own warehouse, or maybe if you're a young entrepreneur and you are operating out of your home, just picking up your shipments from the home, taking to end consumer, which is in that sense a slightly much more simpler way of running logistics. There's only one pickup point, or at best, if you're a slightly bigger brand, you may have a warehouse, so shipment is getting picked up from warehouse, reaching to the end consumer. As you expand into offline, obviously there are multiple layers which keep getting added, right? First and foremost, like you said, that whether you want to work in a B2B or a B2C model, it also depends on what kind of retail expansion you want to go into. It depends, and as soon as you get into a offline mode, you have to start thinking of distribution very differently. You cannot just have, means, or if you're taking orders online, right? It's easy. If the product goes out of stock, you could easily just show on the website, okay, product is not available, coming soon, and it's easier. The moment you start putting your stocks on physical shelf, you can't have empty shelves, right? And that just hurts the brand more than anything else. So you have to do a very different level of planning, stock planning. Your full inventory management needs to go to a very different level. Your entire stock keeping has to change very differently. And from that perspective, as an organization, we have also evolved. We have seen the needs of the industry evolve, so from a pure online play to an online plus offline play, or rather, it's a very, I would say it's a very abused word, but omni-channel plays where it starts coming in. But fundamentally, like Narinder said, it's not just about being omni-channel, it's about being where your consumers are, what do they need. So from that perspective, as a brand, as an organization, we have been increasing the number of solutions we've been offering. So today, apart from just the core shipping business, we also have a very strong fulfillment business. So we have about 45 plus warehouses across the country. We operate in both B2B, B2C models. So if you need shipments to get picked up from your factory, your warehouses, and reach to our warehouses from where they can go to the rest of the country, we can do that. We also have, for the last year, we made an acquisition from Arvind Internet, which is a company by the name of Omni. So they are an omni-channel expert organization. And what they do is they work with a lot of brands in building solutions which enable brands to almost maintain an online-like experience even at the store. So if you are coming at a store and suppose you're shopping for shoes and there's a size which is not available in the store right now, you could, through a digital app, you could have the consumer give the order right there in the store. The order will get fulfilled through your fulfillment center. It can either come back to the store where the consumer is, or it would get delivered to the consumer's residences as well. So there's a lot of these different solutions depending on the consumer requirements, which we have been building at Shiprocket. And I think the online plus offline model is what is going to stay here in this, as we move forward in the retail space.
Thanks. So, Jatan, online and offline operate as two different beasts that are a part of the same organization, and teams are different, the strategies, consumer behavior. You also mentioned that the product mix is also different for you. What tools and technologies do you use to create a seamless omni-channel experience, and how do you ensure that the best is delivered and at the end of the day, the entire data and trends are consolidated at one level to make decisions that fit the organization?
The honest answer to that is that we're still learning to how to, get all the data in one place across the dashboard and draw common insights which can sort of help in growing the business. But our focus today is to look at, let's say, in offline, there is a primary sale, there is a secondary sale, and there's a tertiary sale. Whereas in online, there's only the end consumer sale, right? So both in online and offline, we focus, like even in offline in the tertiary sale, because we don't look at what the primary billing is happening. What matters to us is our customers buying. So we will try and sort of, get manual access to the POS at a store to understand how many customers are buying. Are the customers' phone numbers same? Because if, for example, we sell via pharmacies and supermarkets, and every pharmacy and supermarket will take your phone number while they're sort of trying to bill you. So if they've sold X number of units of a certain SKU, we'll try and get that data from them only to understand if the repeat is happening from a customer or not. Of course, it's very manual. It's not something that's we've integrated with technology, but we're on the lookout on how can we do that seamlessly. But on online, we try and sort of do that with Shopify being our website host. So we get a lot of consolidated insights via Power BI, where we get the Amazon data, where we get the Flipkart data, the Nykaa data, and the website data, and try and see what kind of patterns are happening from a consumption point of view. We also go very deep in terms of understanding, an X number of products are selling in the first 7 days vis-a-vis the mid of the month, vis-a-vis the last of the end of the month. And the interesting insight for us has been that we sell a lot more combos of toothpaste during the first 7 days compared to the last 7 days of the month, right? So very interesting insights that we're able to draw, but like I said at the very start, we're still learning, and I don't have the perfect answer for it.
So, Narinder, what are the main advantages and challenges of online retail as per you? And how do you think we can identify those gaps and plug those gaps? Are there any strategies that you'd like to offer?
I think the biggest advantage, what he mentioned, is the control on data that you have. Where your consumer is scrolling, what are they clicking, what are they buying, what are they sharing. I think massive control in terms of learning how your brand is doing. I think the biggest advantage, that's the biggest advantage that online gives to us. Of course, the second biggest is the reach that you can get. Today in offline, you can't reach to the smallest of the town in the country or the village for that matter. I think online gives you that access, immediate access, for which, of course, companies like Shiprocket and the reach, the data, has to come together. And I think another very good advantage that I see is that, the convenience, the comparison of things. It helps you take a much better decision as a consumer, that you can, see the whole world of things, whole world of options in, few clicks. And you can make a very wise decision from that perspective. And in terms of challenges, was the second leg of question around challenges?
How do we plug those challenges, the challenges of online retail?
Online has the biggest challenges, the touch and feel. That people still have trust issues, whether they will get the right product or not. I think the biggest problem everybody is trying to solve across the world is this only. And I think AR and VR technologies are coming in. I hope in next 5 years, we should see massive solutions coming around there. Amazon India has already, launched AR solutions in few categories. Pepperfry has been trying to do such things. Lenskart has been doing it from a couple of years now. With Apple launching Vision Pro, I don't know what all is coming ahead of us. It's a massive, end consumer product, which is a game changer for sure. If it has been recently launched, I don't know whether all of you have seen that or not, but that's a VR kind of a device, acts like an AR kind of a thing also, where you can see everything in your room. So if these things, companies like Apple, if they are coming in mainstream devices like these, these kind of things might solve the touch and feel. Not the touch and feel, but, as close as possible that you can go. So I think that's the biggest challenge. A lot of companies are trying to solve it through AR right now. Another online, the challenge is that consumer habits in India for brands are very painful. The rate of return that is happening because of the convenience of return is very high in India. I think we are a hardcore service country, and the kind of service levels we have from, offered from marketplaces. I think they are, the consumers are really spoiled, I would say. They don't think twice before returning the product. So I think that's another very big challenge that all the online brands face today. These are the two very large problem areas I think we need immediate solutions for to take this ahead. Yeah.
So Somil, what about you? What do you think are some of the challenges in online, and how do you think those gaps can be plugged?
So I think one of the things which Narinder referred to as well, in online commerce, I think the biggest challenge in India especially has been the element of trust. I think, and trust is also two ways, right? One is just about certain categories where historically people have bought things offline, right? If you buy clothes, if you buy shoes, you want to try it out, and then you want to make sure the size is right. Whereas in online, you don't know what size it will come, whether it fit or not. So one is that trust. I think the second also, and this, it's almost due to the factor of the proliferation of a lot of e-commerce businesses over the last 4 5 years, has been there's been a lot of players who have just been fly-by-night kind of operators as well, right? Not brands, right? It's just companies will pop up on your Facebook feed. They'll be offering a deal which sounds too good to be true. You will fall for it because but that's how it happens, right? And you end up losing money. Next time you see a company which is still young, still trying to establish themselves, they are not there to do that. But you have had a bad experience, and then you don't know whether to trust them or not. That is where all the elements like India is actually the country which has the highest cash on delivery or payment on delivery in the world in e-commerce. That shows that there is an element of lack of trust in online businesses. I don't know whether my order is going to come or not. And that's why I first believe, okay, let it come, then I will pay. So I think those are the two big problems. I think for the first one, which is more about, okay, whether the product will fit or not, I think a lot of companies are trying to do stuff around like AR, VR, as well as there are a lot of, so as to say, Indianized solutions to it, right? You try a product in store, and that is where the online-offline mix comes into play as well. So for certain categories, you say, okay, you can try it out in store, and then you can buy online. Or it says, okay, you order it, you try it. If you don't like it, you can return it to the nearest store and pick up a replacement. We know there are brands who are also trying to say, okay, we'll send you 3 sizes of the same product, figure out which one works, return the other 2. So I think some of those solutions are in the works. I think on the trust side, definitely there is a lot of scope of work to be done. So for example, today, if again some statistics, today 80% of Indian e-commerce runs through platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, or the others, right? If you look at a market like US, there that number is about 45-50% is through platforms. The remaining is through D2C brands, right? That shows that there's a difference. Why people trust in Amazon in India? You know that, okay, if something goes wrong, I have Amazon sitting as an intermediary who can go and solve my problem. So for the D2C brands, or say all the other who are trying to sell through their own platforms, one is how do they build trust? So whether there's an intermediary which comes into play, which says, okay, I am standing here who will almost like authenticate this brand for you. That is one option. The other option is that, and which is the more expensive option from marketing side, how do you build your own brand so that people recall you, people know that you are not going to fly away. And again, that is where offline actually plays a big role. Today in India also the mentality is very clear that if you see something physically in a store versus seeing it online, यार ये तो दुकान में बेच रहा है ना, स्टोर पे बेच रहा है, मैंने इसको मॉडर्न बाजार में देखा है, यार ये तो अच्छा ब्रांड है, मतलब रियल है, दिस इज रियल versus something I just see online. So a lot of, I think those 2-3 pillars of one, an intermediary, second, putting up more of brand building, and third, just being in the physical space wherever possible, just builds that element of trust. So I think if brands think of those 2-3 pillars, and at different stages, each brand will have a different choice. But I think these are 2 or 3 options which I perceive, which can help us solve of so-called challenges which the online businesses face today.
So one question to all 3 of you will be, what future trends do you foresee in the retail industry, and how do you think will there be a balance between online and offline at all? And if that will be, then what kind of a balance do you think will exist?
From a future trends perspective, I feel it's going to be very expensive to go offline. And I'm speaking from a brand's perspective first, and then I'll try and sort of add the consumer lens. From a brand's perspective, I feel it's only going to get more expensive because online has become expensive now, what it is today and what it was 5 years ago. And 5 years down the line, it will be more expensive. So brand will try and create more distribution, and they would want to be omni-channel, and they would want to go offline. So it's going to be more expensive. So it's important that you start having those conversations early on. The early you can get the right doors into, it'll help from a future perspective. From a consumer lens, I think it's a very interesting time because like earlier there was a Amazon, Flipkart and brand websites. With the onset of quick commerce, the behavior is evolving very, very fast. You know, I'll take my personal example. I don't visit a offline store now to buy grocery. I don't buy it on Amazon. I just buy it via Blinkit or a Zepto or an Instamart. And that's just added a lot of convenience. So I feel consumers are going to value the convenience, and they're willing to pay a 10%, 5% premium on top of it. But any new distribution channel that is being built, which is, for example, a quick commerce, it will offer a better pricing as well. So net, it is going to come out to be the same from a purchasing perspective. So yeah, I think I am a big believer of quick commerce and grocery, and I feel it will enable a lot of brands like ours reach so many more households that we could imagine earlier. So today, via quick commerce, we're probably selling in about 15 cities, pan-India, and we're reaching and interacting with those customers, which I would think it would take us another 3 years to get in terms of online or even via offline. So yeah, I think that is what I feel in terms of future trends.
Great. What about you, Narinder?
Yeah, you asked about the balance between offline and online. I was thinking that if you have two kids at home and they don't talk to each other, it's a disaster as a family. So I think a lot of people have been asking this question whether Omni should happen or not. Is it a successful model? I think the future of retail is going to be Omni. If you have an offline channel, it has to talk to the other channels as well, not just online, but if you have like other mediums of selling as well. And I still feel that, social is going to drive a lot of decisions for the end consumers. India is spending about 7 hours every day on internet, and about 3 hours out of that is on social. You understand the kind of time is being spent. I'm talking about average time, okay? So some people are even spending 11 hours, that means, and some are spending 2-3 hours. Of course, there are like productivity apps and other things also, but a lot of time is being spent in the online channels. And I guess brands need to understand that what is driving the consumers' decisions today. And I think my one-liner for future of retail is that it has to be omni powered by your social presence. I think that's the way forward. That's how brands should look at it. Yeah.
So I think for the future of retail, I think it will still be defined by what the consumer choices are. Like Jatan said, consumers value convenience more than anything else. Actually, a lot of it is in our heads, whether this is online, whether this is offline. If you are offering online, the consumers are not a lot bothered about that. They will go where they get the best deal or they get the best convenience. So I think there will remain equal balance in that sense between online and offline, depending on your product category, depending on your life stage of the organization. There may be times where you over-index on a particular channel for sales, but ultimately these will remain individual channels which will work together, like Narinder said, to service the end consumer requirements. Ultimately, that's how it's going to be. And I think that's how brands should start looking at it, rather than saying this is online separate strategy, offline separate strategy. It has to all come together in one place.
Absolutely. So now we'll take questions from the audience. We'll take 3 questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay.
Well, we are from the service industry, so everywhere everybody is talking about products. What about services? How to there is again the same thing is happening here. Like lot of online platforms are there and credibility issues are there. People are not in a position to understand which one to believe, and because in service industry it's very difficult to justify the value what you are charging and what services they are getting. This there is no matchmaking sort of thing what is happening in the products. So how to market and create credibility so that service industry also grow the way products are companies are growing.
So is your question addressed to any specific panelist?
I think Narinder Mahajan can help me out.
Yeah, I run a services company, so I can answer it. So, but we are into B2B services. We are not into like direct consumer services.
Anyone out of three then?
Sorry?
Anyone out of three?
Okay, okay. Okay, so no, I'm saying that, from services point of view, I think it's very difficult to determine the right price, of course. And, whether it's service or product, pricing is always determined by demand and supply. So, you need to assess that whether your services are in demand, how much are they in demand, whether there are other competitors, offering, what kind of offering they have. I think a lot of answers you will start getting if you do a little deep dive in terms of what others are offering and what your consumers are looking for. So pricing can be addressed from that space. How to scale up your services company is through, I think, word of mouth is the biggest marketing that you can ever get. So always focus on customer experience, on how satisfied your clients are. Scale should not matter for a services company in the early days, for sure, because in the early days you have to set the culture right, you have to set the processes right, you have to ensure every single customer, every single client of yours is happy and satisfied, and what you are promised is delivered. It is not like it's very different from product, for sure. And I guess once you have cracked this for few years, the scale will automatically happen in services business, because your happy customers will start getting you so much business. You won't need to, do billboards and other things in particularly this industry.
I do agree, but the issue being word of mouth is a very slow process.
Yeah,
And
it is.
our code of conducts are also there in the service industry where you cannot advertise, you cannot do marketing and all these things. So this is very a substantial issue for us. How to grow our practice or services which we are providing, which are surrounded by so many regulatory hurdles, where we are barred from doing any online marketing or anything. And word of mouth, you can say my age would pass, but I want to be able to reach other corner of the globe.
See, there are other ways that then you have to spend money, because as I think there were early discussion was happening around, velocity versus, speed. I think if you have a direction, then you might need a little bit of force of money in that case if you want to speed up the process, where you can, participate in such events, or maybe, do some activities where you can bring people together and talk about your services. I think then you have to largely collect, a lot of people and, talk about your services if you want to reach out to maximum number of people. So I think I think we are a little short on time. I hope we can connect separately also, if that's okay.
We have questions here and there, but we'll be able to take 2 more questions. 1 more question? Okay.
Hello. Yeah, so my name is Sunil, and I have a kind of a comment as well as a question for all the panelists. So myself, I am a blind person. I use technology through a piece of software called Screen Reader, which allows me to access computer. So online is something, which is kind of more accessible in as a, medium for me. I use Blinkit and other apps on daily basis to order grocery and whatnot. And at the same time, offline is something, which is kind of hard for me in terms of accessibility of the places to manage myself alone and something. So in that sense, online is kind of, very booming. So, and very helpful as well. But my question to panelists is, in their respective sectors and services that they are building on, what does their, what does their focus look like around accessibility for a person with disabilities? Could be, visually impaired, hearing impaired, or learning disabilities, and so on. And how does it look like for everyone?
The question is around focus on accessibility between online and offline channels for specially challenged people or people with visual impairments.
Yeah, in their respective, sectors that they are working on,
Yeah.
companies that they are working on.
Sure. I'll share our viewpoint on what we try and do. We are primarily a digitally native brand, and a lot of products that we sell are through our own website and channels like Amazon, Flipkart, Nykaa, Blinkit, etc. In terms of accessibility, we try and provide a very holistic support, right? So like you mentioned, sir, that you're visually impaired, but you use certain apps to engage online and buy products online and try and use LinkedIn, etc. We have a very active support where if somebody wants to have a conversation on WhatsApp or even via telephone, and we can address their needs, we try and do that. That is the most effective way that we have discovered, which helps out people across age groups, because we've come across people, and again, I've had personal interactions with those customers where I bumped into an elderly person and he said, "Hey, I love your products. My son ordered your products for me for the very first time, but right now I'm not so technologically enabled and savvy that I can go and order your product on the website." And my answer to that gentleman was, we provide like very active customer support. So if you ping us on WhatsApp or, drop us a one-liner either on Instagram or email, our team will call you up and try and help you and help you in terms of placing an order or try and sort of understand what your needs are and make sure that those needs are catered. So that is how we do it. Honestly, we haven't thought a lot about it, but it's a good segue into thinking more deeply about, and I'll go back and do more thinking. So that's how we do it.
So very quickly, any closing remarks on recommendations or feedback or suggestions to policymakers and retailers to make online and offline seamless?
I think recommendations, government has actually already come up with an initiative, ONDC. I'm sure some of you are aware and others are also reading about it. I think that is in itself a very good initiative to almost bridge the gap between online and offline. So I think the recommendation or the suggestion to the government would be can they provide more such platforms. I think the government did a very good job in creating the digital infrastructure, then the digital payments infrastructure around UPI. I think with ONDC, that entire third layer of commerce, online plus offline gets built. I think just supporting the ecosystem, I think that's what we would look forward to government support for.
Yeah, I think ONDC, as he mentioned, is a wonderful example of government already trying to do a lot of things in the digital space. In fact, this government has been very, very pro-digital, recently they launched I think you would know NLS, the National Logistic Scheme, where they're trying to digitize the transportation, industry. It's a very new thing. This year only, I think they launched. Last year they launched OSEN, which is, credit lending, being made extremely, extremely easy for small merchants, small people to, as in small traders and small kirana guys to raise money. So I think there are a lot of initiatives that are already happening. No more suggestions, I guess. I think there's a lot of work happening already.
How about you? No suggestions?
I think no suggestions in particular, and I always feel as citizens of the country, we'll always expect more. But like Narinder and Somil said, that the government has done a fairly good job in enabling digital first businesses, or sort of implementing policies that are ensuring that there is ease of business. And as someone who started the company in 2021, I feel it has already come a long way. The struggles that we would have to go earlier back in early last decade, those struggles aren't there today. And it just feels, that we would want the government to do more, but the government is already doing a lot more. They're thinking ahead of the curve. Of course, it's such a large system that it takes some time to implement those changes. It's not going to happen overnight. All of us will have to be a little patient, but as a citizen, as an entrepreneur, I'm quite happy with all the development that's been happening to make sure that the ecosystem is maturing really well. So no suggestions in particular. Like, I'm quite satisfied, and I'm looking forward to more such innovative initiatives from the government.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, panelists. It was lovely chatting with you all, and hope you all had a very insightful